Hey everyone, welcome back to another Capes and Lunatics special. We have a special guest, another creator interview. We have Mr. Clay McLeod Chapman. How are you, sir?
I'm alive. I'm hanging in there, keeping warm, staying safe, staying out of trouble. So I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, great. We're all great. Lilith's here, Charlie's here. All right. Before we get into Devil's Reign, Villains for Hire #1, which you wrote, I see some of the other stuff you wrote. Seems like you write a lot of symbiote stuff. Extreme Carnage. You wrote some King and Black stuff. So is that just what they assign you, or are you like a big fan of like villains and symbiotes and
It's funny. I think I land in the symbiote cesspool thanks to my editors. I've been really extremely fortunate to write for a lot of different Marvel characters, and I think at this point it's been who the editor is, and I think some of the first stuff I started writing was kind of the spooky, kind of creepier Spider-Man stories, and I think the first actual symbiote. Well, this is embarrassing. I wrote one of the issues for Edge of Venomverse. I had written one of the Spider-Verse prequels, and then that got me to Edge of Venomverse, which was the Venomverse prequel. And that was my first time writing for for Venom. And it was a total lark. It was Venom Pool, so it was like the mashup of Venom and Deadpool. I don't know if anyone liked it, but it was a total lark. Uh, but the editor on that, who's this great guy, Devin, he invited me back, I think like maybe a year later, to write for Separation Anxiety, which was for Absolute Carnage.
mm,
And that was my first kind of like real like let's write about symbiotes, and it was amazing. That's probably one of my like top two favorite Marvel comics I've ever written. And it was, the artist was Brian Level, and he was amazing. Like he took it to such a higher level. This was like, it was Absolute Carnage, Separation Anxiety. It was a one-off. It was basically like, how do we get the Life Foundation symbiotes from like point A to point B? And they just, that was the assignment. They were like, can you get, like, we don't care what the story is. All we know is that the last thing the Life Foundation symbiotes were doing was they were like hitching their ride with a dog, and now they have to go to New York. And those were the parameters. And any like A to B, it was just totally up to me and Brian, and we just totally went to town. And that one was a really awesome comic. Like we had a lot of fun with that. And I think it did well enough that Devin asked me back later to do Scream. Scream had their moment where they were like, let's do like out of the Absolute Carnage, like let's do a whole spin-off, a whole series for Scream, who's one of my personal favorite symbiotes. And that was a fun, that was kind of where I really kind of, they took the training wheels off and allowed me to do symbioteness, which led to King in Black, which led to Extreme Carnage, which led to, I guess it kind of led to Villains for Hire. I don't know if there's like a through line. Agony. I mean, Agony's in there. So um, wherever the symbiotes go, I hopefully will not be too far behind. I'll ride those symbiote coattails wherever, those slimy coattails. I'll take them.
so you don't specifically request symbiotes. I guess they just like your work, so they're like, hey, we got a symbiote project, let's put Clay on it.
I mean, maybe they're like, can this guy do it? No. Can that person do it? No. All right, let's like, I'm probably like fifth on the list of symbiote go-tos, which is fine with me. I'm happy. I'll pick up the phone. I'll take the call. But yeah, I mean, it's not so much that it's like if they're like, hey, here's this invitation we have. Like we have this prospect for this character. Like, what would be your story? And then the wheels start turning and I get to kind of pitch an idea back. And that's been kind of the process thus far. And it's exciting because it's kind of like me kind of getting to play in the sandbox with other people's toys. And maybe I wreck them, maybe I break an arm or two, but like it's hopefully I return it, in operational order.
And didn't you write the miniseries Lilith? I think he wrote the one we like, the Gwenom vs. Carnage miniseries.
I didn't write the Gwenom verse one. I got attached to it because of they like trade like the trade paperbacks. Like there was like so it was. I'm totally blanking on who the Gwenom verse Gwenom pool, right? That's the one you're talking about.
No, there was a Gwenom vs. Carnage one. It was like Gwen had to fight like a her version of Mary Jane with like a Carnage symbiote. It was.
That's right. Yeah. I think they threw in one of my screams in the trades for that. So sadly no Gwenom pool or Gwenom. Though they're pretty awesome.
No, but the Scream stuff and the self-storage stuff is also great.
I mean, Lilith still raves.
I'm more of a horror person anyway, so like your American Vampire stuff, yeah, I like it. I do.
I mean, she's still raves about all the. She still raves about all the King Black stuff.
Like the horror stuff. I feel like that's the vibe you give.
I mean, like, every so often Marvel just goes straight up horror, and it's awesome. Like I feel like they maybe they're doing it more often. They should definitely do it more often if they're not. I think it's time. More spooky stories.
Get back to their roots, absolutely.
Darn tootin', right?
I mean, between symbiotes and Immortal Hulk, I mean, yeah, it seems like they've been doing some horror lately, yeah.
Man Thing. They need to bring back Man Thing.
Yes, Man Thing.
Yes. We'll start a petition if you want. Make sure your number one is a giant size Man Thing, though. That's kind of the running gag.
I'll do it. I've been dying for some Man Thing.
All right.
Divergent.
There you go. All right, so let's get to Devil's Rank Villains for Hire number 1. All right, so when you're part of a big event like this, do they let you in on the entire big picture, all the plans, or they just give you enough information for you to do your crossover?
Well, for this one, they let me. I mean, there was definitely a structure to it, and there was like, Chip, he did all the scaffolding and essentially, I mean, like I think I got to read like the first 3 scripts. Wait, Devil's Reign, the main story is, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's like 5 issues, give or take.
I think something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Around there. And I had read up front the first 3. And I've read all the scripts now at this point. But I mean, it's such a massive, it's a sprawling cosmos, for New York. Like there's a lot of story there. And, they see, I think Marvel, they see these kind of apertures, these kind of like exit and entry points, these intersections where, it's like, can we follow this character, or can we, what's the story kind of in between, in between issues. And Villains for Hire, gosh, how, it was a loopy one, because when I was kind of invited to participate, it was kind of like, we have these characters, we're thinking about, we're putting the team together, it's going to be Thunderbolts, and we think it's going to be this character, and this character. And there was, I think for the most part, like Electro, Rhino, Taskmaster, Agony, those 4 were in place. The kind of larger conversation that we had as a kind of unit was who was going to be the 5th member, who's going to be the 5th Beetle. And you know, I don't know if it's a spoiler territory. You know, people who've read issue 1 know who's coming on for the other 2. But that was kind of the, like, how do we get this character onto the table?
I mean, I think they've kind of been promoting who the character is, and he even showed up in the first issue of Devil's Reign. So I think
he's everywhere. John, we'll just say it. U.S. agent, right?
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Mr. Walker. There he is.
Oh, everyone's favorite hero. America, thank you very much.
Can we talk about him? Can you? I mean, like, here's the thing. I said this before we started, and I'm just totally curious. Like, I haven't talked to anybody about this issue, this series, so I don't know. Like, I'm curious. Like,
have you ever seen Moana? Have you ever seen the
Yes.
film Moana? You know the whole big musical number, You're Welcome?
Yeah.
That I can see John Walker singing. It's just this idea of, I believe the word you're looking for is thank you. And let me just say, you're welcome. He is so much. He is a character who's come a long way from being literally just the worst possible Captain America replacement to a guy who has had a lot of depth and breadth to his character over the years, as a guy who just wants to do right, even when he comes up against a wall that doesn't go where he wants it to.
And spoilers, he literally swaggers into the room on the last page.
Well, exactly, because you know what? He has every right to be there because, hey, Fisk, you're a legitimate organization. As a legitimate hero, I believe I have every right to be here as the U.S. agent, defender of democracy.
I think that wall that you're talking about is going to be in the shape of Wilson Fisk pretty soon. So
yes,
it's a Fisk-size wall. But he's an interesting one, right? Like, I don't know, like, the complexity of him, you know, I hope it carries over into this one, because he's definitely one of those characters that, you know, there's an artifice that people kind of like, they see it, they kind of stay with it, but, like, you know, being able to kind of go a little bit deeper and dig a little bit further in, I don't know, he's really, I don't know, like, there's something kind of tragic about him in my mind.
He's kind of a Guy Gardner figure.
Petty, my favorite kind of villain.
Well, you know, it's the idea. He is a character who, you know, in many ways had this thrust upon him, did the best he could do, and a lot of people felt he was a substandard replacement because, you know, you're replacing something that was honored, but at the same time, he still keeps fighting because he believes there is a fight for him to do. There's a place for a U.S. agent. So I really appreciate him being in there. Though I have to say my favorite character in this is the Rhino.
Yes.
Who is honestly like one of my top 10 supervillains of all time. You know, on a lot of levels, but I honestly feel, and you can let me know if this is a zeitgeist that I'm just seeing, if this is something that people have talked about in the break room at Marvel or not. But I get the feeling that I'm seeing more and more of, like, working class villains just getting tired of the henching, you know, and it's like, you know, I just want to have a day job. Yes, I will happily step on people if you want me to. That is what I do, and I've always done that. But honestly, I don't want to be part of the Machiavellian scheme to take over the universe. I just want to go to work and go home.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think it started with Sandman. I think we get that with Rhino. I think we've seen it a bit with Shocker and Boomerang and several other characters. But I like that fact that you know, the dumbest guy in the room is also the voice of reason throughout it.
No,
is delightful.
he's our kind of moral conscience, you know, in the Thunderbolts room. Like you know, and I think throughout Devil's Reign, like I don't, this isn't spoiler territory, but I think Rhino more often than not is going to be the kind of heart of of these henchmen for hire. Like there's a certain kind of like moral code to him, which you speak about the kind of payday and kind of clocking in and clocking out, and I think there is this kind of like blue collar, everyman journey for Rhino, where he's kind of coming about this from, get the job done, do the work. I had a flash of what is George Orwell's Animal Farm. There's is it the horse, the donkey?
Oh, you mean Boxer? Boxer.
Yeah,
I will work harder. My favorite character.
Like there's something so amazing about that, where it's like, he just works himself to death. And I think Rhino has that kind of, that same similar, that's the approach I'm taking to him, where it's like he wants to do good, and he wants to kind of follow order. Like it's like you have to kind of point him in the right direction, and he will execute. But there's a heart there. So I
love that.
I agree.
Yeah, and I do have to say, it's a pretty rough open that they get here, the Villains for Hire, because they're here to stop the terrorist attack, and honestly, at a certain point, you're not quite sure who the terrorists are anymore.
Yeah, and that was definitely a conscious effort. There were a few things that play in those first few pages, and first off, it was like it was supposed to only be 5 pages. It was supposed to be kind of a splashy, get in, get out, and it was just too dense. That Devin, my editor, was like, there's a little too much going on here, so let's crack this open. So they're like, let's just let this be the first half of issue 1. And it was, my idea to start it off at the Met Gala, which is this oddly, I find it a bit kind of, I don't know what the word is, but whenever I see pictures of the Met Gala, it's a little bit like the opulence to it, and like, even though it's for a good cause and it's a fundraiser, like there's a certain kind of like garishness to it that, like,
yes.
I
love they're all uncomfortable under the guise of respectability. Like they're just bristling against that authority, and it's just like that tension that kind of drives the book. It's very good.
And there's probably somebody there wearing a Rhino costume. So
yeah, and that goes to within the concept. It's like, it's the kind of place where you don't know who is a supervillain or a superhero, and someone who's just dressed up,
eccentric.
Yeah.
And then you go into this idea that, this is a universe where people are superheroes and supervillains, and how that might influence the fashion. Heck, Janet Van Dyne is a noted fashion designer in this universe. Immediately, suddenly, capes and cavalier boots. No, that's just a thing. I was just wearing these because.
Yeah. It is amazing because earlier versions of this opener were a lot more violent, and we had to pull back because it was a little, like, my approach is like, let's beyond being splashy and flashy and kind of like introducing the Thunderbolts, like wanting this idea of the brutality of the Thunderbolts to be so kind of over the top and so not offensive, but an affront, like to let it be this kind of like shock to the senses, where you say to yourself, these are the good guys, like this is the police force now, like this is these are the people who are watching after us. Like if there ever is a moment where like all the things that are at play, where it's like this group of terrorists who are holding these celebrities hostage are talking about, you know, real world kind of talking points of climate change and, you know, feeding the homeless, and like in a weird way, the terrorists have the right idea. They're kind of, you know, it's almost as if like the talking points are sound, but then come the thunderbolts, and they are so violent and they are so brutal that it ends up kind of, you know, what you're left with is this kind of bloodbath, and you're like saying, who's in charge here? Who are the good guys? Like, what's going on? I feel like it has to subvert the idea of the, like, you know, the heroes coming in, like the cavalry comes in to save the day, but at what cost and what expense, and, you know, whose heads end up rolling.
Yeah. You have Whiplash on this team. And just prior to this in Devil's Reign, we had seen Whiplash going up against Ben Reilly's Spider-Man. And there's this whole taunting of Whiplash to get into the mix of it. And I do feel like Whiplash seems to be the loose cannon of the group.
That's
Yeah.
Which is amazing, in which Agony is also on the group. That, with Agony there, Whiplash is still the loose cannon.
Well, that's before John Walker walks in the room.
No, again, I believe John Walker is there only for positive reasons.
He is cluelessly militant and short-tempered. No good can come of this. And they're giving him a position of authority. No good can come from this.
That's why I was so happy he's in this series, because it's like, unlike Captain America, you don't know which way he's going to go. Is he going to be in it to be in it, or is he like, hey, I'm undercover, I'm going to take you guys down from the inside? You don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
No, you know, I'm sorry.
No, I love this, because it's like, if John Walker is your, you know, if he's the one in charge, like, what does that say about everything?
Yeah, well, you know, and I gotta feel that, honestly, from John Walker's perspective, it is, okay, look, Fisk wants to say he's legitimate. Fisk wants to say he's doing his own Thunderbolts. Great. I have experience running Thunderbolts. I have got a great resume for this. You want to say you're a legitimate force for good in this city? You show me you are. And to me, that is John Walker 100%. I may be wrong, and you know, but I can totally see just organically that character doing that. I could also see him being sent there by Val. So Valerie Cooper, not the ones from the movie.
We shall see. Chew with that choice. So we all know it. We're just all waiting for the other shoe to drop, and that's going to be the beauty of the next 2 issues.
Yeah. But you're right. Whiplash is totally. I mean, like, if anything, is he more trigger happy than Agony? I feel like it's kind of a toss up. Taskmaster, you know, in any other world, and maybe this is kind of going off of Matthew Rosenberg's last Thunderbolts from King in Black, but I feel like Taskmaster wants to be the leader, and I think Walker kind of pushes Taskmaster to the side. Agony is kind of marching to the beat of their own symbiotic drummer. Whiplash, I mean, Rhino will go pretty much wherever someone tells him to go. Electro will, you know, I think Electro is kind of the more kind of schemy conniver, kind of like, you know, doing, like, if you're not keeping an eye on Electro, she'll be getting into trouble. And but Whiplash is kind of like, to heck with all of it. Like, you know, this is, you know, he's the most kind of short-tempered, and I think because of that, pre-Walker, you know, like, Whiplash tends to be the one that will pop his top.
Yeah, and you know, like I say, it's really exciting what has been set up here. I do feel like Whiplash wants to be the center of attention. Like that's his primary motivation. He doesn't want to be seen as not not the A-level supervillain that he believes he is. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of his motivations come from that. But I just felt it was very well played in how that works. Although, again, I have to, it's if you can handle a criticism, I'm going to say this was a very bad team for Fisk to put together. If he wanted to keep a
I
low
know,
profile.
right?
He's a bad decision maker.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
we're all in agreement. It is the worst team. But that's what makes it so fun, right?
well, exactly.
And it's only going to get worse.
Yes.
I don't know how much you want to give away, but is there going to be friction between Taskmaster and John Walker?
That's kind of self-explanatory.
I would think that is the
I mean, it probably isn't a spoiler that there's just going to be friction everywhere.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of all these people, honestly. It's like, it's like The Good Place. These specific people are here to torture each other.
Yeah. No, I love it. 20 pages is not nearly enough to kind of let every character, let the sparks fly full throttle. But I do think that there's at least, everybody's got a moment. I'm maybe it is my kind of symbioteness, but I'm having way too much fun with Agony. And I think their character kind of ramps up as things go. Everyone was so much fun, and it was really just like, how do you like, what happens when you put all of these people in the same room? And it's like, oh, things have to break, like something has to it's not, it's just a powder keg, and Walker's only adding gas, like more firepower to it.
That's the hook for me is a U.S. agent. I know Charlie said he loves the Rhino. Lilith, who's bringing you to this book, Lilith?
Obviously, Taskmaster. Obviously.
Of course.
And I love that opening, the opening panels with him too. Just it's very.
Oh my
and
God.
I don't mean this disrespectfully because I love Power Rangers. Very Power Rangers intro kind of thing, and I like that vibe.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Manuel did an amazing job. I love the art on this. His pencils were just so beautiful. Like I just loved, if I had an extra zero to my income, I would just buy all of his original pencils and just put them on the wall because they're gorgeous. He did a really amazing job.
He gave him so many great characters to work with too. So what were the parameters? Did they told you which characters would be in the team, or did you suggest any?
The characters were definitely most of them were the Thunderbolts themselves were
from King and
picked.
Black.
Yeah. The Walker was a conversation that we had. They were kind of like, what do you think about John Walker? And I was like, like he scared me. Like I feel like, yeah, I mean, he's a very charged character. And I feel like anyone who writes about John Walker needs to kind of explore that. The kind of circumstances that they were in was kind of up for grabs. Like that was, I don't want to give, am I going to give anything away? I got to create a villain. I came up with a new bad guy, which is a funny thing to say when it's just nothing but bad guys. But like the kind of opposition of like who are the Thunderbolts going to go up against, and like what is their mission, and that was really fun. But kind of like let it all kind of simmer in this pot that Chip put together, where it's like, this is New York, this is what's going on, this is what's happening with all the other characters. So at the end of the day, it's basically like Fisk is just dealing with all of his other headaches, so that to come back to the office and then deal with the Thunderbolts, it's just like, why can't you just do the job that I've put for, just complete the mission, guys, just do the task. And in a fun way, I always feel like it's the Thunderbolts kind of mission inadvertently to kind of give Fisk the biggest migraine possible, where, if the job was basically to kind of look after Fisk or kind of take care of, what's out there, they're just doing a terrible job at it. But that's the fun of the Thunderbolts. They don't do a good job.
So here's a random question.
If the Thunderbolts did a good job, the comic would be boring. Like, it's like they have to do an awful job. Sorry.
So, and I don't want you to say yes or no, because there's no way to spoil to say this without getting you in trouble. But at the very end of the last Thunderbolts run, we get, as one of the members, a taped together 2 halves of the century. Will 2 halves of the century in some method or other show up in this, or can you not comment on that at this time?
I think I'll plead the fifth purely because there's so many other people playing in this sandbox. So you never know. You never know.
I gotta say, I love the Sentry as a character. So give me a half a century, 2 halves of a century taped together. It's all good to me.
50 years. Okay. But no,
a half century is better than none.
That's true. But no, Lilith was talking about parameters. So, like, when they give you the story, do you have to be cognizant of like where each issue falls in the Devil's Reign timeline, or do you just write your story and they slot it in wherever?
Well, there is a timeline, and whether it's a process. And for me, it was usually who turns in the script first. So it would be one of those things where, like, we're all drafting, and I would submit a script, and they'd be like, "Oh, cool, this works for now." And then maybe a month later, it'd be like, actually, the latter half of this has to change because it doesn't sync up with issue 4. Like, it's almost like my 3 ends up in between maybe like 4 and 5 of the main event. And so it's kind of like all of those ducks have to kind of get in a row. And sometimes if I'm, if I'm the horse and Chip's the cart, and Zach, who's writing the superior foes, like it's a lot of moving pieces. And God bless Devin and the editors, Tom and all the people in the office who are basically like getting this deluge of scripts in. And they have to, I'm lucky because I get to, I'm forest for the trees. Like, I don't see the larger whole. Like, I'm microed into my kind of little corner, where the editors are total macro, total kind of overarching story, and they have to make sense of it. And maybe if I was a little bit of a better writer, I would be more cognizant of the rest of the storyline. But I'm kind of in my own little corner, just kind of tinkering away, and making a mess of my little corner of the cosmos.
No, that's interesting. I'm always curious about the process. I didn't know if all the rest of you just had to follow Chip's lead, or so it's just whoever gets the script in first. So it's kind of like, okay, here's what Clay's doing with the Thunderbolts. So if you include Thunderbolts in your book, this is where Clay has them right now.
I'm being a little cheeky. I Chip deserves like all the credit, frankly. Like, we all got his massive kind of treatment of the series, where it's like him basically positing the whole kind of worldview and what was going to be happening in the main event. And then from there, and all the tie-ins, and I guess they're like, are there 3 tie-ins? Are there more? There's the X-Men, Doc Ock, and the Thunderbolts. Is there more than that? Is that, I feel like that.
Winter Soldier had a one shot today. There's a Spider-Man
That's
one shot
right.
coming. So
Oh my God, there's so many. There's more than that. They're not going to stop. But those basically, like, if you know, if Chip is the body and the main kind of head of this Hydra, like the Thunderbolt head is over here, and it's essentially, I think it's the kind of editorial room basically saying where are the offshoot storylines, where are the characters that kind of cross through the main event, but then we want to kind of see more of them or kind of experience more of their story, and that's where the kind of invitation to kind of tap into that. And like, it's always interesting, because for me it's been, the question is always posited, like, what is the story, like what is, like, if we know that at this point to this point things go dark and we don't know what that story is, what fills in that gap, like, do you have a story that you can tell within those parameters? And usually for me it's the exercise of, well, what could fill that in? If I knew A to B is, those are the confines of my narrative. I don't know, it's a really cozy kind of prompt to kind of determine how, like, what's the best story that can kind of fit those parameters. It's fun for me.
So can we bombard Marvel's social media, or do a email campaign? Can we get this as an ongoing book by you?
Yeah, go for it. Heck yeah. I what am I allowed to say? Like, I'm sure there's probably going to be something. Someone's going to do something.
Okay.
If enough readers read it, like, I don't think, I know that I'm not going to be the writer for it. But Thunderbolts there'll always be around. There's always room for Thunderbolts, right?
Okay, so eventually someone may do a Thunderbolts series. Okay, wink, I got you. Okay.
There's gotta be, right?
Be. That's what. Well, that was my other question. It was like, it's probably an editorial thing, or I don't think, did you do it? Why Villains for Hire, not Thunderbolts? I'm like, is it like Thunderbolts is like a big property? I'm surprised they didn't go with the title Thunderbolts. Was that your decision? Was that their decision?
That was definitely their decision.
Okay.
Have I think it's been, maybe no one's ever really actually articulated the why. There has to be a reason. Yeah. Devil's Reign Thunderbolts, Devil's Reign Villains for Hire. I mean, I know they're playing off of past titles.
Yeah.
Devil's Reign Villains for Hire has more of a ring to it to my ear, but maybe that's just because I've gotten used to it. Devil's Reign Thunderbolts, I don't know.
I mean, Fist did replace the symbols, to be fair. So
yeah, but they're there. This is the crew. Thunderbolts they're coming back. They'll be around.
I didn't know if it was
Thunderbolts aren't going nowhere.
Yeah, because they called it Thunderbolts during King in Black, so I didn't know if they were just like, oh, it hasn't been enough time, or I'm sure it's something over my head.
It's always a plan over there somewhere for something.
So let me ask this. I don't expect you to answer.
But you questions he doesn't expect an answer for. What the hell?
Because sometimes the non-answer is telling us.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So let me because obviously the possibility of a Mayor Cage is being put out there for this Devil's Reign. So let me just put this out there to you. Let's say you're living in New York City. I don't know if you live in New York City or not, but let's say, you get to vote for Mayor Fisk or Mayor Cage. Are you voting for Fisk or Cage?
I'm a Cage man. I'm gonna vote for Luke. You gotta vote.
You can never have the trains running on time. Fisk will have the trains running on time. Damn it.
What is this got on you?
Well, he's got his eye on the presidency. We can see that now. So, this is just a stepping stone. Whereas Luke is probably more embedded and he would care but he won't have the trains run on time. I'll give him that.
It's true. I mean, who wants it more right now? I don't know. That's a good question. I would vote for Luke, but that's just me holding out hope as the eternal optimist here in Brooklyn.
Well, if you're Luke, you gotta have a bulletproof mayor. To be fair, he does have that one up.
I'm hoping for Mayor Cage. That is an arc I'm looking forward to if it happens. I would love to see just a beautiful book about the political intrigue of New York City politics when you are a superhuman mayor and you still have to deal with the city council. To me, that's
wouldn't that be wild?
That's you can't punch them. It's like nothing you can do against the city council.
I mean, it'd be a step up. I mean, for Fisk before him, Jameson was mayor. I mean, it'd be a step up.
No, it's honestly what New York City needs right now in the fictional universe. And
I'm all for it.
The mayor is an ex-cop, so you can have some nice parallels and storylines. So I'm just saying, I'm putting that out there. Maybe I'm sure it's already been discussed around the water cooler, but I'm just saying I would love to see Mayor Cage existence in the Marvel Comics universe.
Oh, they're gonna spin out a Heroes for Hire book if Cage becomes mayor.
Oh man,
branding's there.
That would be cool.
Mm-hmm. They could still get Rhino. He just wants a day job.
Mm-hmm. He just wants to punch the clock, man. He just wants a pension.
Hey, man, wasn't he in charge of a Thunderbolts for a while there? I mean, it all fits.
Yeah, you can make it work.
Unraveling this plan. Okay, Clay, here's a question. All right. I know the roster was kind of set for you. Is there any villain, like Marvel villain, that you haven't written that you would like to write at some point?
Oh, whoa. That is a very good question. I always have fun. This is kind of a non-answer, but this is where my head went. When I was writing for Scream, they allowed me to pick some of the most bizarre, like far out there characters. Like we got to do Big Mother, who I loved. My biggest pride is that I got to revamp these villains called the Creeps, which was, hold on one second. The Creeps were, they did this one X-Men. They had this one kind of blockbuster video X-Men tie-in, and there was this. This is basically like one of these kind of like, I mean, like kind of after school special comics where it was a one-off, but there were these characters called the Creeps, and the Creeps were this old couple, and they like would drive around in their like station wagon, and they would try to abduct children. And the whole point to the issue was like, don't talk to strangers, and don't get into strangers' cars. And the Creeps were amazing because they were just like this like sweet old couple, and they'd just be like, driving around like, are you lost, little boy? Like hop in the car, we'll drive you home. And I thought that was terrifying. I mean, reading them as a kid, and they were only in this one issue. And I got to, and for like Scream issue 6, I brought back the Creeps for a little bit, and it was just so much. It was the best. I loved it. I would want the Creeps to have their own like mini arc and let them kind of like try to like take over New York City or something like that. That would be almost my dream.
Oh my God. That's what I want.
They could be their antagonist.
No, that's what I want now. I want like a Suicide Squad type book by Clay, just like all these like D-list villains. Maybe people have only showed up once or twice before, so it's like at any point any of these characters could get killed. So it's like, who's someone gonna die this time? I don't know.
Yeah. Oh man, it would be so much fun. I had been writing for Demogoblin for a little bit, and she was a lot of fun. there's just so. I mean, like I'm blanking. I should know. I should have like someone at the tip of my tongue. Bad guys. I mean, the villains are so much more fun. But when you're writing for the symbiotes, there's always this kind of like gray area that you're kind of stuck in, where it's like maybe they're good, maybe like there's like which is why Agony is so much fun right now. The host and the symbiote having that kind of perfect combination is really a lot of fun.
She shouldn't spit so much, though. If you know canon, what that spit is actually is, she's really kind of rude.
Yeah, she spit a lot in issue 1. I don't know. I can't believe they let me get away with 2 face melts, but they did. They did.
Maybe they didn't notice, and we don't mind.
Well, it's funny because I had a lot more decapitations in issue 1. And they were like, you can't have this many decapitations. And it was always Whiplash. It was Whiplash. Whiplash would just constantly just slice off people's heads. And my editor was just like, dude, stop. And so the ratio of face melts to decapitations kind of went, where we lowered the amount of decapitations, unfortunately for Whiplash. But that just kind of let the face melts kind of rise to the surface a little bit more. And nobody's batting an eye. Like nobody said, no one at Marvel Central was like, stop it with the face melting. They drew the line at head loppings. It's amazing. Like because
you can't come back from a head lopping. That's the thing. It's like, this is the Marvel universe. There's ways to come back from a face melt. If you want to. And many people choose to know. You know what? This is my luck now. But, once you get the head separated, very rarely do you come back from a head lopping.
Unless you're Deadpool.
Yeah, exactly. But there is that line. It's that it may seem arbitrary, but actually it makes sense. It's like, heroes don't kill, but do they melt faces? Well, are you dead? No. So I guess I'm still a hero.
I think you found that. What is the rated T+? I think you found the T+ line. Yeah, acid spit. Okay. Yeah, decapitation.
More than 3. More than 2.
It's like the F-bomb in R-rated PG-13 movies. Yeah. One head lob.
Yeah, that's amazing.
All right. So, anyone have any other questions for this man? This genius.
Just hyped for the next 2 issues. I really.
I was okay. Before we get to any plugs you have, Clay, you have an open invitation. If you want to come back when 2 comes out, and then when 3 comes out, you are welcome. I mean,
anytime. Honestly, if you're still talking to me, let's do it.
Oh yeah. I think issue 2 comes out like mid-February or something. So.
Gosh, yeah, I think it's like February 9th or something. I don't know if they pushed it back or not, but it was the 9th. It'll be
time for Valentine's Day.
Pretty soon. Yes. Nothing says I love you more than a face melt.
Yes.
And please pass our appreciation over to your artists, your letters, your inkers, your colorists.
Yes.
Will do. I mean, Manuel, they all lifted it to a higher level. So I'm really happy. Thank you. I'll say thank you for them. Thank you.
Oh, yes. Wonderful. Especially that last page. Yes. Got that John Walker swagger. So, if you're up for it, I'll get a hold of you closer to when issue 2 comes out. Yeah, we'll do this for all 3 issues if you want. Oh.
Sounds great. Don't have to twist my arm.
Nice. All right. So, before we let you go, Lil, should we get the drop?
Yes, please.
Okay. Lil's always on my case about this. Can we get a drop of you saying this is Clay McLeod Chapman and you were listening to the Capes and Lunatics podcast?
This is Clay McLeod Chapman, and you are listening to the Capes and Lunatics podcast.
Excellent. Perfect. All right. Okay, before we let you go, any plugs you want to do? Website, social media? Of course, pick up Villains for Hire, but yes, the website or anything else?
Pick up pick up that Villains for Hire. Issue 2 comes out early to mid February. You can find me on the interwebs. My personal website is claymcleodchapman.com. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. Yeah, I'm out there. So come and get me. Find me.
That was some nice U.S. agent. All right, kids. So yes, thank you for your time. Like I told you before we jumped on, we love talking to creators about the new books and just the process.
Means a lot to me. Yeah, well, let's keep the conversation going.
Yes.
Thank you very much, guys.
Around the month or whenever the next book comes out, I guess we will chat. So thank you. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're gonna do all three if you're up for it. So
awesome. Sounds good. All right. Well, then I gotta get back to work then. The bar is raised.
Please. All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Right. You too. Take care.
All right. Another excellent interview. All right. Before we get out of here, I guess we will say. All right. So if you're, I was going to say, any other creators or even just people who have questions, if Clay's coming back, so if you have questions for Clay, email them to us, capesandlunatics@gmail.com, or call the voicemail 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. Just like Clay, you can find Capes and Lunatics on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
We're out there, baby.
That's right, baby. Okay, George. You can watch this video on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to know what Clay looks like.
Isn't this only on Patreon?
No, what we're doing with the interviews now, Charlie, is we're gonna do Patreon first, and then after we might release this one early, Lilith, because he's trying to push the book. But usually, what we're doing is we're gonna do 2 weeks later. Then we're gonna put the interview on with regular. So
if you can enjoy this now,
yes,
right now, because we're tantalizing you, but soon this premium content paywall for a while, and then we'll let you watch it.
That's right. So, and speaking of, again, if this is going to be this will be on the regular feed. Yes, if you want to help sponsor more creators coming on our podcast, please subscribe.
You won't do it.
Oh, please subscribe to the. Oh, I should have been like, Clay, can you put our podcast somewhere in the comic? Is issue 3 out yet? Are you done with issue 3 yet? All right.
I imagine they're all done.
Yeah, probably. So I figure. All right, kids. So yes, if you can, please subscribe to the Patreon. Help us bring you more creators. Lilith and I talk to Mr. DG Chichester every month. And again, Patreon only exclusive content. The worst superhero movie bracket has begun. See how Captain America fared against Howard the Duck.
Two-fisted tails.
The results may surprise you.
That's right. Or
they surprised me.
Or pick yourself up some Capes and Lunatics and Capes and Lunatics Sidekicks merch. Find it all at Linktree, linktr.ee/Capes and Lunatics. All right, Lilith Hellfire, where can people find you?
If you want to hang out with me on the internet, you can find me on Twitter at Lilith Hellfire, on Instagram at Lilith Hellfire69, and of course on TikTok, making the spicy comments at Lilith Hellfire69. Duh.
All right, Charlie Esser.
Doing my TikTok dance. Hey, cats and kittens. Why don't you write to me in that old-fashioned email way the way our mothers and fathers once did? That's superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And of course, follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet things like Naomi when I don't fall asleep because I'm sick and dying. Last night
at 9:00, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, normally it would have been fine, but last night was not a good night for me. At Charlie Esser, that's CHARLIE. And I sound so beautiful tonight, don't I? ESSER. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing.
Such as it is.
Muzzy.
And it's days like this is why you should have a pre-recorded drop, so you don't have to wreck your beautiful voice, Charlie.
Well,
or teach Tristan how to do it.
Exactly.
He's already asleep. This is a little late for him.
Okay. All right. So yes, kids, thanks for joining us for Devil's Reign Part 6.5. I'll put it right behind Russell and Justin's review of Devil's Villains for Hire. So, all right, kids. Again, come back. We're always here. But if you're looking for Clay, come back in February. He'll be should be good for his word. He'll be back.
The mountain as she goes.
All right. So catch